What is the global postal currency? What does that mean?
Global postal currencies are the syntax on money. All banking systems get their authorization through contract, and the contract is written word and that written word, if it's modified with adverbs and adjectives, it says nothing. So these currencies out here actually are nothing. So I claimed them all up as a fact.
Yeah.
And I was really undermined by Dave. The last time I was super undermined, he took my concepts of opening up physical bank locations and how to do it on contract, and he sold it to the Chinese military. And then 45 days later, they open up Bricks Bank, right? So
Bricks.
This is on my learning from what I did. And I did that when Dave did that the last time. I was like, you know what, Dave, enough. I've had enough of you, and that was getting close to the end with him.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, that's a good answer. This one confused me at first, but now I understand it. But for the people who are listening, I'm going to ask it anyway. Sure. I looked at the history of all the postmaster-generals since the birth of this nation or corporation, but your name wasn't there. Why not?
Because fact and fiction can never meet. When I did what I did in the year 2000, I spoke with William Henderson, who was the Postmaster General of the United States. And within 72 hours of having a conversation with him, he retired because he realized he was not the Postmaster General. I had surveillance teams come in at a C-SPAN event in Washington, D.C. under U.S. Senate Postal Reformation on February 20th of 2003 at Hotel Washington in Washington, D.C. C-SPAN was there, and I went and sat in the front row. As soon as I didn't see this, but my surveillance teams were behind me. The Postmaster General, John Potter, walked in with U.S. Secret Service. As soon as he saw me, he ran out the door. One of my entourage jumped in the elevator with him, and he's screaming at U.S. Secret Service, "Get me the hell away from Gould. Gould's here, Gould's here. I can't even be in the same building with him as him." And so, do they know? Yeah, they know. And of course, my name's not going to be on there. But
because it's a fraudulent system created underneath
because their authorization ended. It ended.
When did that end?
It ended when they vacated the Constitution on the presidential election of November 7th, 2004. The U.S. Post Office violated Title 39, Section 101, subsection A and subsection B. And so they vacated the Constitution and the presidency.
How do you remember all this stuff? You're spitting out dates and times and...
Yeah,
that's amazing.
I've got a memory.
That's awesome.
I don't know.
Right on. Okay, so...
I'm very blessed.
Is the United States government built upon a corporate structure?
It was, and then it ended in 1999.
Okay.
So it was, but it ran on as a fable line for a while. But it,
When did that corporate structure begin?
1775, 1776 when they entered into contract.
And they entered into contract for the sake of borrowing money from France?
No, to set the terms of what they were going to do. So they gave us the Bill of Rights.
Okay.
And then the Declaration of Independence, and they were involved in a number of bankruptcies, 2 domestics and 2 70-year moratoriums.
Wow. Okay. All right. Talked about capturing the flag.
So it ran from 1776, a domestic, to 1882, and then they ran another 7 years to 1789, and then they flipped it into international moratoriums at that point, 70-year moratoriums.
Capturing the flag.
Yes.
All languages are a mathematical equation of algebra.
Yes.
And can you give us an example? Because first of all, I'm bad with math. I'm good with grammar.
Okay, so basically, a math problem has been created. I wish we had a board here, but a math problem's been created to apply value to words. There, let me slide around here.
So he's writing down a math equation.
Yeah, this is simple stuff here. Mm-hmm. And the opposite of that is, so what goes in comes out. So what are we trying to get to come in here? We're trying to get facts to come in. All right, a fact comes in, a fact comes out. The opposite of the fact goes in. The opposite of 1 plus 2 equals 3 is 3 minus 2 equals 1. A fact comes out. What are facts? They're nouns, right?
Yeah.
So what comes in front of a noun? Well, there's only 2 things that can come in front of a noun.
Here.
One is One's an article, and the other is a conjunction, right? For the table and chair.
The table, the chair.
Yeah. Well, not the, for the.
For the.
Yeah, because if you say the table, then you,
Okay.
then you created a modification because now the article becomes a modifier.
So for is a preposition.
Yes.
And then table is the object of the preposition.
No, the article commands the authority of the noun. If you drop the article, you're losing the control of what the noun is. You're creating a modification. And that's where modification is change, change is motion, motion is action, and action is verb. So what comes in front of the noun? Well, there's only two things that come in front of a noun. And there's only one thing that comes in front of the noun here in our problem, which is the equal sign, right? So what comes in front is a conjunction. Conjunction. Sorry about this.
No, you're good.
And the other's the article. So now we have a +3 and a -3.
Mm-hmm.
So we use the prepositions in our sentences. So we say for the table and chair, or the opposite is instead of for is of the table and chair. So what's the opposite here? Plus and minus. They're opposites of each other. So we place a value of the plus and minus as our prepositions. We're prepositioning our facts. All right? We're prepositioning our facts.
When you say it like that, it makes more sense.
When you preposition the fact, what happens?
You get to rule over the fact.
Would you get to the fact can't be put on trial.
Right.
But the condition of mind that created the fact that moved the table and chair here in this location, hey, why did you do that? So now we can find out why the fact showed up.
Okay, so that's what you mean when you say put the condition of mind on a trial, trying to figure out the intention.
You know, who put this fact here? Why was this fact created? Why was this vaccine given to this person? Why? Who did it? Where? Why? When? How? You're the one. Okay, so what was the condition of thinking?
Yeah.
And what was in? Because here's what was in it. Yeah. Why did you do this? See, now you've got condition of mind on trial, not the facts of what they did. Who cares what they did?
Yeah. Yeah, you need
You did it. Now, why did you do it?
Yeah. And that can apply, because that can apply to any situation.
That can apply to, yes, sir, Andy.
Okay.
Yes, sir, to any situation. So the opposite. So what we have left here is the
What if they didn't do it?
well, then that can be put on trial as well. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You didn't do it. Perfect. Now that they shift the blame to somewhere else, now you go. Now you maintain the rules of the continuance of the evidence, and you track that down. So you keep the same facts that were done, and you link it onto that over there. Right. So Great question. If they didn't do it.
Yeah.
Right. Because for sure. But if they did, because you see guys out here with the nanotech confessing to a lot of crazy things now. So yes, they can hide that now because the nanotech that's going inside particulates going inside people's body.
Yeah.
They can program that, and you'd never know it was coming from somewhere else. So you got to be real careful with that. And these are dangerous times with dangerous people and they're actually on the loose. I mean, the U.S. military is letting them run around.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, because
they are the U.S. military.
Yeah, they're subservient to those controllers, more or less.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it's a really sad thing. You know, somebody asked me the other day, well, what's going to happen if all these people come into our country, this and that? I'm like, I don't know. I guess the U.S. military is going to jump out there in high heels and go chase them.
That's what it's starting.
How's that going to look?
That's what it's starting to look like these days. It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. Okay, yeah. So what's left is the 2 and 2. So the 2 is now the verb, right? We place a value of verb here. So the thinking will never change the condition of the facts. What that means is that here's the cup and for the cup and table, or for the table and chair. Those are the facts. But what created that to happen? Because the facts are not going to change. Mm-hmm. What created the condition of mind?
Yeah, it had to be.
How did that come to be here in this room? Oh, and he brought it in this room. Oh, okay, cool. Right?
Yeah.
So we agree with that. Now we have jointer. We can all agree to that. So you're exposing transparency by presetting the facts to break down the condition of mind on why the facts happened.
Yeah.
It's like you could put a gun on the table, And you can yell at that gun all day. Go kill somebody, go kill somebody, go kill somebody.
Great example.
That gun ain't going to kill anybody.
Yeah.
Right? But the party that picks it up and walks over and points it at somebody and puts a projectile down what was their condition of thinking?
Yeah.
Right? Did they have knowledge, or are they in nonsense?
Mm-hmm.
Or are they following orders? And then of course, who gave those orders? And then you're up the chain of command. And of course, at that point, you're following the money, right? Because that's what caused that vanity to happen. So crazy things.
Right on. Will you hand me that clipboard?
Yeah.
Cool. I'm going to have to sit with that for a little bit.
Sit with that one for a little bit. Appreciate it, Andy.
So basically the mathematical example that you just gave me can extend throughout all things spoken.
All things written.
All things written.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, spoken is, you can't quantify spoken.
Which is what establishes the foundation of written fact.
Correct.
And because anything that's not written in this format is up to interpretation.
Correct. Which now creates division because everybody's going to argue about what the words could or could not mean.
Exactly.
So what I've done is brought conformity to the facts of what are being done to now break down why the facts are being done. Did it help our fellow mankind? Did it share kindness, or did it create division?
Yeah.
And so these are that's is why I'm, of course, not on the airways.
Yeah.
Is because now culpability can now be handed out, and the people, it's highly embarrassing for some to have these performances, articulated in such a manner. So.
Right on. I wanted to ask, the other day we talked and you told me about punching the Pope, one of the popes.
Oh yeah, the Black Popes.
What's the Black Pope?
Well, you got to read. Have you ever read the book Vatican City Assassins?
No.
Oh, classic. It'll teach you all kinds of nefarious people that are in the world. You kind of watch what's out here.
It's like the shadow government type of situation.
Where they have their own concepts, and
Okay.
their concepts are based around lust, vanity, and greed.
Yeah.
And so when you break that down and you see they set up corporate structure, these are like the fastest moving generals in our militaries are with that order, right? The Jesuit order.
Okay.
Right. So these are advanced people, and they have to do things like, and there's a lot of good people that get stuck in that try to conform, and that's a tough thing. That's a real tough thing because they're very compromised when they come out of those situations, and they're involved in a lot of money games around the world, be it in Istanbul or wherever they're, it's a connected organization. And so a lot of these generals, and why a lot of things are not happening for the national security of this country, is because a lot of those people will lose their financial stability.
What are their incentives are for doing that thing?
Well, to help, because they're not allowed to help, right? They're stuck in the order, and they're just going to stand in line. Otherwise, the order is very dangerous, and they put bullets in you.
Yeah.
Right, and those are facts, right? So. This is why I'm very different, is that I can walk around and deal with those entities and still be walking around in the next space, which scares a lot. And I see a lot of manifestations when I show up in places where those entities go into physical convulsions, shake, fall on the ground. It's really, really fascinating. A lot of times you get the smell of sulfur. It's really, really fascinating to watch. From those that have been with me, there might be one or two that are listening on this audience that have been with me in specific locations around the world. You know what I'm speaking on.
Can you tell more about that? Like stuff people would call paranormal things, like paranormal things that happen?
Just spiritual things where people are like, I thought you're supposed to be dead. You're supposed to be dead. That sort of thing. Walking into walls and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So is the Black Pope black?
No.
Okay.
No. There's different armies within those functions over there. Different hallways and different locations. The Vaticans have different controlling factions. So they got blue armies, they got a lot of different things.
What do the colors represent?
Different organizations.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
different secret societies, different sects within the construct, all with the same goal, all with the same leader, just fighting over their crumbs for their jurisdictional venues that they're controlling mankind in.
And who is that leader?
It's a number of them. It's just not one. It's a whole, and they're just spokespeople for the financial entities behind them.
Okay.
Okay, so that's one. It's so multifaceted that it's very difficult. That's why it's so hard to stop, because there's so many
layers.
There's so many layers, and then if you take one out, it's a chameleon and it changes form.
Okay.
And so you have to catch the spirit in the right spot, and you have to have the right people around to make sure they don't get away.
What does this spirit have a name?
Well, the good and bad. It's always the fight between. Everybody has free will, or hopefully at this point, who knows, with the nanotech tech, right, and the scalar wave tech. So if you have a choice to do good or to do bad and enrich yourself by doing bad, that energy and that thought process comes into your conscious being, into your spirit. Call it whatever you want. Call it the devil, call it God, call it good, call it bad, call it source, call it whatever. What I'm challenging society to do and mankind to do is feed the energy that comes for the good of man within you, inside of you. What energy do you choose to feed? Is it that of bad? And there's many names for bad. Or is it of good, of kindness, of love, compassion, fairness? And that's the real challenge within all of us, is do we go for the vanity and take the secular? And does that somehow make us better than anyone else? I don't feel like I'm much better than anyone else. I put my pants and shoes on one leg at a time and one shoe at a time.
No,
so,
you?
Yeah, yeah. I just feel like I'm a normal person, that I've created something to have, 1 foot in the sea and 1 foot in the land, to help mankind be free from this bondage of this shipping war that we've and communication war we've found ourselves in. So the real challenge is, what energy do we feed with inside of us, and to try not to have it be manipulated in a manner that is harmful to our fellow mankind.
Yeah. Right on. Do you know why the Vatican is shaped like a viper, apparently?
Oh, well, it comes to, so dealing with the symbology of the Garden of Eden, of what it was, the snake. It was the poison, right? So it's a poison. It's a battle between the poison of what? The mind. Because if you can control the mind, what do the U.S. Army PSYOPs guys say? Control the mind, control everything, right? So and when I'm dealing with the U.S. Psychological Warfare Department, unfortunately, their motto is they wage war through deception.
Yeah.
Right? So why, if we reverse that, instead of we bring peace through happiness, love, fairness, what would that look like in the third world countries that have been, they're only coming out of what situation that they've been put in, right? So they're in a tough situation, and they think it's going to be better here, and then some have apparently volition to harm our society. I don't know, right? I have not seen these people face to face other than what you run in the streets, and there I'm very cautious, because I am kind of, known a little bit, and I don't know what that means for me and my personal security, right? So I have to be cautious of that at every turn. And so far I've been able to blend in our society fairly well, but the blending is coming more into where people are becoming cognizant that I've set up a situation that they don't have to be part of the paradigm of destruction and death, that they can have happiness. And, when you met me, did I have a big smile on my face?
Yeah, you were hanging out. You were chilling. You're having a good time.
I'm a chill guy.
Yeah.
I'm a chill guy.
Yeah.
You can count on it. And I'd rather do that than go to war, because wars, there's casualties, and it's mainly psychological and spiritual casualties that happen in every aspect of a war. Physical is a part of it, yes, and people are definitely hurt and injured physically. But the spiritual ramifications and the psychological energy that enters in, that people that have seen that, is a humbling thing, because when they find out that they were there for nefarious reasons, it pisses everybody off. And then, well, how could it not?
Yeah.
How could it not? And then the same thing held true with what I got involved with the world banking system. Whoa, what? This is what I'm dealing with? But there's so much wealth.
Yeah.
What? Doesn't make any. I got pissed off in a different mannerism, right? Yeah, I may have got my ass kicked a whole lot of times by the federal marshals and sheriffs all over the place, and poster child of being drug out of a car and maced and tasered and beat up. Hey, that's all right. But I did I have trauma over that? Yeah.
Hard not to, I bet.
Hard not to. Just don't be angry towards them, because
that's only going to hurt. That's going to hurt you more than them.
Yeah, I'm not angry.
Well, let's keep running through these questions. We got, can you describe the bankruptcy trust of 1789 for $3 million? It says the Bank of England picked up the note through the Rothschild family.
So they at that point they filed a 70-year international moratorium, because they bought it through international commercial means, and that commercial means ran up to 1789. Oh, well, my bad, 1889. And in 1889, Abraham Lincoln had to borrow more money to fight the South. And when he showed up to the Rothschild institutions to borrow the money, they told him to blow it out your ass. You have 13 stars on your Union Jack, and you only have 8 states to represent your flag, so your flag etiquette is wrong. So Abraham Lincoln had to go out and he recruited Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, and Wisconsin to represent the 5 territories coming under the statehood now of the Union. And if you look historically at the militias from those territories, they were financed more than anyone else, and they were ruthless in the Civil War. That was because Abe had to borrow the money in 1859, and then they filed another international bankruptcy, which took them to 1929, and then they filed the third and final right there, which took us to 1999. But that's how that works.
Thank you.
You need to take 5?
Yeah.
This is nice.
Yeah,
Isn't it nice?
We can do that.
Yeah, this is really nice.
Just never use
I mean,
it
it just sounds so
crisp.
badass.
Clear.
And it's going to sound different and better on the other end.
Really?
Like right now, there's like a little bit of an echo kind of thing in the
Yeah.
That's going to be gone. It's pretty good audio quality.
Damn good.
I'm proud of it.
Yeah. Hell yeah, it is.
My dad's a musician, and he's really good with audio stuff, and he told me when I first started doing this, he finally listened to one of my podcasts. I was like, oh, cool. He said it's really good audio quality. So coming from him, I was like, oh, I know I must have nailed it.
Yeah.
But I put a lot of work into trying to figure it all out.
This one's going to be a long one, huh?
I'll probably split it into 2. It'll be a 2-parter.
Okay.
But that's okay.
Yeah,
the
it's
last
fine.
2 or 3 have been.
Hey,
I love it.
We're going to send it out to our network once we get it. They'll watch it and be
Perfect.
impressed. Yeah. We have quite a big network there.
Awesome.
Yeah, and you're asking questions.
They're asking. You're asking questions. They're asking.
Awesome.
Or
Yeah.
that they've never got to ask.
Even better.
Yeah.
And how often?
Yeah.
I'm very lucky to be able to
Yeah. We're thankful.
to hang out and talk.
Yeah. We're
So,
very thankful.
Thank you.
You bet.
Well, let's keep rolling through these questions and we'll just do that until we get to a subject we want to go deeper in on.
All right.
All right. So we got what does a flag represent, and according to who?
Okay. Great question. So a flag is a symbol of a corporation or nation And so you see a lot of corporate flags now that fly outside their businesses, but mainly nations that use that to protocol to let whoever's coming into contract in that location know who's showing up and what the terms are. And so I am the bearer of the flag in quantum grammar, Title IV, Sections 1, 2, and 3, as well as the civil peace flag, which is like the customs merchant flag, which I filed copyrights for in 2007. So I filed those copyrights at the U.S. Post Office, Department of Navy, as well as the United Nations.
So you own the actual copyrights to the U.S. flag?
Yes, and then the Secretary of Navy's office signed a lease with me to lease the Title IV flag. So there are specific terms of those leases. Number one, there's not to be any presidential elections because there's no president, and some other safeguard ones for me. So the Hansford T. Johnson at the Secretary of the Navy's office through William Ball, who was working in the office on that day at the Pentagon, and they signed the lease and signed the stamps and joined the quantum banking system. So I had my bank charters there, and so they joined the Department of Navy, and that's why the Navy psychologist showed up in my trial to talk to me about my position as muster-master, muster-master-general, commander-in-chief, postmaster-general, treasurer of the country, because they had grave concerns that I was about to get killed, and they were even concerned for me. They said, "Hey."
They weren't the ones that wanted to kill you?
No, they came in. I was at a civilian place, and the Department of Navy showed up. No, they weren't after me. They were asking questions,
Wow.
especially about what the hell happened at the Vatican, what the hell happened here, there, and all over the place.
Can I get one of these flags it's a different size than the standard flag you see, right?
Yeah. Title IV flag. Next
Yeah.
time I come up here, I'll make sure I get you a flag. Oh, you got one in the car? Hey, we got one in the car. We'll get you one now.
So
Yeah.
can anybody order one of those?
We sell them. We order them.
You
Yeah.
guys sell 'em?
Yeah. But
Cool.
we definitely can get you hooked up into that link.
Awesome.
For sure.
All right.
Yeah, so back to the question. So the Navy, the reason why I went to the Navy is the Navy was in charge of vessels going through martial law theaters offshore for the former United States of America. And I was they told me that I was the only citizen who, number one, timed the bankruptcy to walk through the door and re-register the flag. And they were very honored that I would lease it to them. I'm like, hey, our Department of Navy, our soldiers need to have a flag to stand with. And see, it's really sad about the military is when you go to before you go to the military, you go to the post office, and outside the post office is flying a Title IV 101.9 dimension flag. And then when you go into the post office, they're flying a yellow fringe flag. And then when you go into your branch of military, they're flying yellow fringe flags. But when you die in service, then they give you the Title IV flag as honor. And that's what they put on the coffin flag. That's the Title IV flag. So in and out, theoretically, they're correct on their soldiers moving in and out of theaters in battle. And so there's a lot of flag etiquette laws that come into place in the military theaters as far as where the blue field flies on the shoulder patch, right? Because nothing's between the blue fields. That's your kill zone. I mean, there's a lot of technical things.
So do you know why on the military uniforms when you're in theater they fly the flag on the shoulder patch backwards?
Yes, because there's nothing to be alive to the right of the field. So that's your kill zone. So anything you see when you're turning, that's what you can kill. So technically, you're correct, and you can learn about that in your if you study your. I was pretty blessed, and I dealt from 1996 to 2004 at the day of court martialing. I got to deal every 2 weeks with the U.S. Department of Navy JAG, who was learning the protocols of quantum grammar with me, and they were teaching me about a lot of classified stuff of shipping for the U.S. military. And so I developed quite a relationship with the JAG officers, specifically a couple guys. And the day that they dishonored their contract with me, they actually called me down with the security teams at the Pentagon and called me on the phone. They said, Russell, we know you're going to be back, but now you got to enter into this. I'm like, because I'm a peaceful guy. I'm like, I don't want to go to war. That's the last thing I'm wanting to do.
And what do the yellow fringes on the flag mean? What does that
The
mean?
yellow fringes has many jurisdictions. So to place a yellow fringe on a on a flag for the military is a military parade flag, and that's okay. It's a 3x5 military parade flag, and that is what they fly in the military. However, to put it in the civilian sector, it's a violation of Title 36, Section 176, subsection G, which means they're desecrating the flag. So it comes under flag desecration by placing marks or objects on the flag. So that's the title site it violates.
In one of your videos, you said that you court-martialed George W. Bush.
George-Walker W. Bush, yes.
And what was that for?
That was for false and misleading statements to the U.S. military for trying to act like he was some kind of president.
Okay, because this is post-2004,
Yeah.
November 7th.
Yeah, and the Pentagon had already entered into, the Department of Navy had already entered into contract with me terminating all presidents because there's no guidelines to elect a president anymore because the Constitution ended.
Can anybody see that contract?
Yeah, I have a copy of it.
Awesome. Can you share that with me?
Yeah, I can get you a copy of this. You want a copy of that? I'll get you a copy of that.
You mentioned you rewrote the whole construct for the Veterans Affairs.
I did.
And that took you like 3 years?
Yes, it did. So what I did is I set up a system where if a soldier got injured in the field, that his family would become under a dynasty, and that each soldier was given the right of dynasty for their family to set up a floating macroeconomic rate where the soldier's family would get paid indefinitely because the soldier was he was handicapped in the society. When he came back out, he was unable to provide for his family. So that was one theater, and I mean, I built, it was a lot.
Is that currently in operation?
I don't know what they're doing with it at this point. It was massive. It was about 3,000 pages. I gave it to a few soldiers that were in the U.S. military, and they were baffled. And I mean baffled at the levels that I went through, from dentistry, from psychological, from healing post-traumatic stress syndrome, for getting chemicals out of bodies with hyperbarics. I mean, I went very in depth on how to clean our bodies in a naturopath, holistic way to break away from the pharmaceutical industries of bringing health to the soldiers within the U.S. military.
No, it sounds like they're not operating at that capacity right now.
No, actually, I got kicked out of the U.S. Veterans Hospital here in Prescott last weekend because I wouldn't wear a mask.
They're still waiting to wear a mask right now?
I got tossed out. I'm not even clowning. No, I tossed out last Saturday out of the veterans. I was going to see a friend of mine. He's dying. He's a veteran, and he's like 87. I wanted to go say my last condolences to him, and I walked in the door. I was literally 10 feet from his room. They started screaming at me, put on a mask, put on a mask. I'm like, yeah, my friend's here. And they called security, and they tossed me out of the building. So
Wow.
It's pretty wild.
Go figure.
Yeah, I didn't have any of my paperwork on me, so I was unprepared. I was like, what in the world? I was just going to see a friend that was going to pass. He was a lot older guy that I spent a lot of years working at his lab that he managed.
It's unbelievable that they're still doing that, and not surprising.
Craziness.
That must have been an extremely tedious task to rewrite all of their...
all their administrative forms.
Yeah.
I mean, you have no idea how tedious that was.
Horrible. That sounds horrible to me. That sounds like torture to me.
I syntaxed them, improved them fraud, and then I rewrote them in quantum grammar.
Awesome.
It was really cool. You know what? I learned a lot about veterans I call it veterans-fairs, not affairs, but fairs. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
This one we kind of touched on, but I'm going to read it the way I wrote it. Why should anyone that's holding any kind of power or authority, whether it's false or not, why should they submit to the correctness of this contract that you've established when so few people know about it or abide by it? Isn't it easier for them to not honor it and just do business as usual?
Well, they have to look at the long-term effects of what they're doing to their own families. So this really is challenging because you're looking at the causality of choices that they're making that undermines not only the national security, but the peace and sovereignty and the happiness and living of their own generations.
Yeah.
And they're not taking that into consideration when they're making these choices. So they need to be sat down and given the necessary commands to comprehend that society has moved beyond division. We're not in a state of war with our fellow mankind, even though they want to push this upon us.
Oh, yeah.
And those actors who are only acting, who think that it's okay to undermine the national security of our borders, of our people, of the sanctity of our faith, our freedoms of our rights to bear of our arms, those are not principles that we the people concur with. And I was told, the first time I dealt with a senator on this. He was his name was Alan Simpson, and he was a U.S. senator from the state of Wyoming. And I pulled out a dollar bill and showed him how America was a verb on the money, and in violation of Title 18, 1342 bank fraud, under public embezzlement of Title 18, 641 through 646. And he literally took off a running from me, and I said, I know I got something here when senators are running. Now, coincidentally enough, last summer, two senators from the state of Wyoming and the governor of the state of Wyoming, literally, I was in a steakhouse in Wyoming, and all the merchants from our community was at the steakhouse to be at a meeting with these people, the senators and the governor, Gordon from Wyoming. And as soon as their security found out that I was in the building, they kicked all merchants out of the building, closed off the bar, bought me 10 shots of Jaeger bombs, and they Jaeger bombed them up with me. And they wanted to have a talk with their security team, specifically with me, for 2 hours about the grammar and the quantum banking system that I was bringing to planet Earth. They had a former senator there who owns the newspaper in the local community who had run me down in their newspapers, the B-Bouts. And I told Eli, I said, look, next time you run me down in your fucking newspaper, I'm going to take it fucking personal, and you ain't going to fucking like that. He said, yes, sir, Mr. Gould. I says, you run me down all you want. I says, but next time, you've been told, I'm not going to be nice. Governor was like, he was cool.
Have you ever had a situation like that where you had to exercise some sort of physical force against somebody other than personal fights?
Yeah. U.S. Secret Service, fumbling, bumbling idiots. Yeah, number of agencies for sure.
Where you had to have your own security address them?
No, fuck no, bro. Took care of it myself. Fuck no, bro. You kidding me? They come at me 2-on-1. They got problems. I may be little, but fuck, I'll crack those fuckers. I could fucking deck dudes, bro. I'm good.
All right.
I trust myself. I've been in a lot of fights when I was a kid, right? It's your ability to get angles. There's no rules.
Yep.
And so, no, I'm good. Hey, U.S. Air Force sat by with their security personnel and watched me knock the fuck out of them. It was cool. Yeah.
Right on.
No, it's good, bro. I'm good that way.
I got to get some of that confidence.
Yeah, well, you got to know what you're doing.
I have some training, and I really appreciate that.
I don't have enough training, but I know people that are helping me with that.
Yeah,
and so that's cool.
It's cool. It's fun.
It's some of the angle points and the pressure points and the things that can be done now.
Scary, right?
Scary shit.
Yeah.
I'm more like I like to tap them up in the ear. I like good ear shots and taking them down that way.
Ouch.
Nothing like a good ear shot. Nothing like if you've ever been hit there, you know what I'm talking about.
I have been hit in the ear, and that sucks.
And it sucks ass. For sure.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah. Earlier I asked about the punching the Black Pope.
Oh, yeah.
What was that about?
That was about setting up the pecking order of who's the boss on planet Earth.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a conversation about, because they were pretty upset about the accountability that I was bringing.
Yeah.
And
what's the role of the Black Pope? Or what's a few of them?
Just undermining the national security of nations, undermining the national security of military personnel who they advance for technologies, right? So a lot of it's black ops, and there's a lot of black ops operations running. As you know, black sites all over the damn place. It's a freaking shit show out here. Mm-hmm. And so they're in part of the financial backing to make sure that people stay in line,
Mm-hmm.
and then the security forces that go out, the assassins that go out to make sure that policies are upheld.
Right on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Are you aware of the Luciferian Brotherhood cult system?
No, I'm not. I don't follow any of that stuff.
Right on.
Am I supposed to?
No, not necessarily, but
Yeah.
being this involved in authorities and nations and governments and things like that, that group positions people in those places to do things like what you're describing the Black Pope does.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I don't.
Right,
I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, I was just curious.
I've kind of done my own thing, and
Yeah.
who knows, right? Have I met? I don't know.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
As far as the ley lines go, do you have access to like a map of the ley lines that are?
I could draw you one. I got them in my head, but I keep that kind of inside.
And why is that? Why is that something that to keep?
Well,
quiet?
because it was given to me out of confidentiality of where I gave my word. And sadly, if I give my word on things, I just stick to it.
Yeah, no, I don't have any issue with that. I'm just curious about what the purpose of the ley lines are, and
the one that really was the wizard and all that was David.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the highest ranking degree Masons in the history of planet Earth. He was a 92nd degree Mason. So his ability and the access to books that came through him was phenomenal, right? So we had books that were,
nobody can get.
Yeah, in wax paper and all kinds of crazy stuff. I've seen a lot of nutty stuff on maps and energy ley lines and portholes and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on.
And the porthole thing, that's an actual phenomenon, and it's very, very dangerous stuff. Those are dangerous people.
Yeah.
And they're to be taken quite serious.
What is that?
Dealing with space-time continuum and time jumping.
Okay.
It's easier to go in the future than it is to the past. So it's very, very dangerous things.
And these are human beings doing this?
I don't know if I'd call them human.
So are they doing this through a technology?
Through
or is this
built technologies and natural technologies?
Okay.
Both.
And what's an example of one of those natural technologies?
I don't know if you could find it, but there's a group of Marines that walked through a gravity well in a cave in Afghanistan, and they showed up in like Romania.
Okay.
And as they did that, an activation happened in Iraq on another spaceport.
Okay.
So stuff like that.
Right on.
And that was on YouTube. I don't know if it's gone. I don't know if it was a bullshit feed, but some of the things there and some of the things they were showing, sure, because they had to bring out Black Ops to cover that up. And some of the people that were talking, I knew of those people. And yeah.
Do you know Stephen Greer?
I don't know Stephen Greer.
Okay.
He hides out from me.
Have you met Donald Trump?
I have not.
Okay.
No. I'm just kind of a quiet guy.
Yeah.
And I show up. That's one of the biggest complaints by U.S. Secret Service is that I don't make appointments anywhere. I just show up.
Oh, yeah. I bet they don't like that.
No, I say, well, shit rolls downhill, or when you're the fucking boss, you do what you want. Deal with it.
They probably don't like that.
I don't give a fuck what they like.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. This is a pretty straightforward, simple one. Anybody can find this information on the website, but I'll just ask you to get it over with. What is the claim of the life, and how does one move out of that system and into the claim of the life sovereignty?
So a claim of the life is the capacity to join and claim sovereignty in a buoy system. A buoy are contracts that are around the world, around the globe, to navigate corporate structure where one can claim and move their equities into a neutral position outside of wartime theater. And the claim of the life gives a function of biometrics within the claim of the life that claim where you were born, when you were born, how many Earth space days you got on this Earth space place, and basically is claiming your date you were docked here and who did the docking, parents, as well as a neutral position for your contracts and banking. And we're moving the paradigm now. I can give publication that the paradigm is going to be moving completely out of the shipping war. We haven't worked out the logistics on the website yet, and I don't know how we're going to go about that for postage, but something that I'm considering to do is move them completely out right out the chute.
What is that? Oh, so that you wouldn't be born into the birth certificate system without having your life claimed.
Well, you would move completely out of the postal construct. So the stamps you would use on contract, the corporate structure for corporation numbers, that may all have to be changed out. But these are things that we have to financially make feasible for the people.
So then would people still be born into that fraudulent system?
Well, they're there, but they're going to stop and correct. So the second tier, to answer your question, it gives them the capacity to stop and correct. Because it's really cool, Andy. In life, we come along, and I have a question for you. Does your mind hold the same knowledge that you've learned? Is it the same as you were when you were in high school?
Not at all.
So we change because there's conformity, because you learn more.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing happens true in life.
Yeah.
Right? So we've learned more, and the people joining the system learn that the system is defunct, that it ended. They're learning about the bankruptcies. They're learning about the flag. They're learning about the postal. They're learning about the grammar. And so now as they're learning, you have a beautiful thing in life that you always have the right to stop and correct. You have to give people the right to stop and correct. Some of the things I was talking about earlier with the sheriffs and the police department, that's why you're not out there being jerks to them and this and that. Right? Give people a chance.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's slow down. Let's start thinking about what we're doing. And let's learn how to communicate and where we give people a chance. So it gives people the chance to stop and correct the usuries that they got stuck in, whether with knowledge or without knowledge. And so it gives them a chance in when you get a claim of the life, we have steps to go through to now establish them as a fact in those paradigms that they were a part of in their past.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of what a claim of life does, is it cleans that up.
Thank you. And what's the legal name with or without punctuation? Because you introduce yourself as colon Russell hyphen J colon Gould period.
Yes. So let me show you something. If you look on your computer screen right there, what time do you got up there?
Let's see. We got 11:51 a.m.
So if numbers are nouns and people are nouns, now take the colon out of the time and tell me what you have.
1151 a.m.
Or 11 space 51.
Okay.
Point being, you're engaged in subjective interpretation at that point. So if numbers are nouns and people are nouns, why aren't people using punctuation in their names? Because they're allowing subjective interpretation to translate who they are. So this is why we use punctuation in our names. Because if you don't have the right procedure, you're going to come up with somebody else's answer.
And then you're establishing yourself as a fact.
As a fact.
Rather than a maybe.
Correct. Now think about it. When you go to the bank, since numbers are nouns, let's take it a little further. If numbers are nouns, and we go to the bank and we write a check to ourselves, and we put 30-5, and that equals 35. But now take out the procedure of the hyphen and come up with the same conclusion. So you would write it out numerically, 30 space 5.
Like 30 space 5?
Correct.
Okay.
Right? Because you're losing the jurisdiction of what you're trying to claim. And this is why we have hyphens between our first name and our middle name. Because we're taking control of the jurisdiction of who we are.
Awesome. Thank you.
You bet. Hey.
You motherfucker.
Hey. Numbers don't lie.
Dude.
Procedure.
Right on.
Procedure, bro.
Holy shit. Oh, yeah. I know the answer to the first part, but the second part I want to know. Do you have privileged or classified information about the so-called U.S. government and or any operations being carried out by them or entities associated with them that you can share with us?
Oh, boy. Nothing that I really want to go public with.
That's cool.
But are there things going on? There's ops going on everywhere, and everything's a psyop.
Yeah.
So be real cautious on what you allow into your field.
Cool. And to include screens and media such as that.
Oh, definitely number one.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Everybody gets their own AI called your cell phone. And so that is curtailing based upon algorithms that are in place.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not good.
Yeah.
Not good.
Yeah, because you have to think DARPA is like 10 years ahead in technology than what the public has available to them.
Maybe 200 years.
No way.
Maybe.
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 All right. You got any examples? No.
Nothing
Okay.
I'm talking about.
That's cool. All right. So if the government is legally illegitimate
Yes.
and cannot pass or enforce laws against us from a legal standpoint,
No.
how do we individuals stand our ground against that?
Well, you got to get your claim of the life and clean up your usuries, and at that point, network in and get your your business constructs in a position where you can't be harvested, and you can still use my banking system, which is I control all grammar and all banks on planet Earth. So you can pick whichever one you want and go into it, but you have to have performance contracts and your usury set up with those banks.
Okay.
And yeah, and it sounds very different because it is. And it's definitely different for the banks, but once they pass it up to legal and you say the right things, I can firsthand witness that it's a win-win situation for the claim of the life citizens.
Right on.
Yeah.
We talked about we used DUI as an example earlier for like being an asshole, breaking laws or whatever. So
Yeah.
you can't get out of
No, this is
killing someone.
This is not a get out of jail free card.
Right.
Right. This is about putting yourself on trial for being accountable for your positions. Now, if somebody needs killed, right, then the way you choose to go about it, you'd want to be, you want to make sure your volition's all up front, right? And try not to do that.
What do you mean by that?
Look, say you and I are out on the street, we're having a good time, and we run into Fauci. What the fuck are me and you going to do, bro? me, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, right?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm good that way.
Yeah.
Right? Now, you're going to be surprised.
No.
You're going to be like,
Nope.
Yeah, so that's what I'm talking about, right?
Okay.
Stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Not trying to be threatening, because it's not
No,
a threat.
I
it's
understand.
It's a guarantee.
Right.
That's different.
That's okay. I see what you're saying. And how would that work on the back end? Let's say that literally did take place and you killed Fauci on the street.
I'm good. I run the court systems. I know exactly why I did it. I can put my facts on trial, and we can trace down his money and find out who's financing him to go chase them down. You got some friends that want to roll?
So then did you commit a crime?
No,
Why?
because he's a public safety hazard. And under public health, he's a public safety hazard because I took out the World Health Organization in the military court-martialing in 2005, so their policies are not valid. And to set up corporate structure, I took out the Universal Postal Union, and for them to set up corporation doesn't exist.
Good God. Okay. Excellent.
Juggernaut.
Huh? Juggernaut? I'm the juggernaut, bitch.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Let's see. In the long term, for you, creating this ability for people to reclaim their own sovereignty.
Yes.
What does that look like after you're not here anymore?
People are going to get to manage themselves. I'm not involved in that. Even when you get involved in the system, stay within the buoy so you don't get yourself hurt, because there's a lot been set up that the general public is not cognizant of. So that's why I give them increments on knowledge, because it takes a lot to retain this.
Yeah.
Because you're physically retraining your mind and your consciousness and your spirit, because now you get to make choices on which energy you're feeding. This is the dangerous part with some of the nanotechnology that's out here, is they're trying to thwart that ability.
Yeah.
And so we need to get in front of this now. There's not very much time to get in front of these guys, because the education on their part is so advanced and so nefarious against us that they're precogging our ability to stop them.
So what you've created will still remain?
Yeah, because it's always now.
Okay. How does that interface with the non-correct grammar government?
Well, I'm seeing most of them dead in my now space. right? I'm seeing them being a non-factor
Right.
because they're using non-facts. So they're either going to die or be moved out of the now space. So to be correct, you would want to be accountable for your choices. And you got to comprehend, I'm a principal, so that my choice of words are much different because I can be that person, which is a much different culpability, but it's also more accountability.
Okay.
Yeah, crazy as that sounds.
So does this need like a critical mass of people in order to dissolve the current structures?
What it needs is a restructuring of the media who allows the structures to move.
Okay.
Because it's the media that is controlling the narrative. That's
perception.
why the perception. That's why all these podcasters are paid off, is because they're working for other entities unbeknownst to them that are allowing the negative agenda. Instead of talking about feeding the energy of positive and happiness and get along with your neighbors, they're talking to us about somebody's bombing somebody somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? So the media perspective is the guilty culprit, and all the podcasters who ain't got the spine because they ain't done nothing as far as being in the theater and doing something about it, right? Because it's another thing, because you have to put your ass on the line,
Yeah.
and that's a pain in the butt, right? Because lumps and bruises are factual. Those things happen.
Are you familiar with the Sean Ryan show?
I'm unfamiliar with Sean.
He's a
Ryan.
former SEAL. You might like his show.
I don't know. I'm familiar with him.
He's
Yeah.
good. It's good stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said,
Oh yeah.
don't know a lot of too many people. But
Yeah.
it
That's
is.
good.
Yeah.
That's a good place to be.
It is very humble.
Let's see. What was your very first clue to all of this?
Well, I was in a courtroom, and I was doing flag protocols, and a judge came off the bench and took off his robe and tried to sit next to me at the table, and he should have sat across the table.
Well, that sounds like your first affirmation that you're on
Yeah.
the right path.
Yeah.
But what was your very first clue that something's off here and it's in the grammar?
Oh, when I was really young, when I was in first and second grade, I went to summer school for 3 summers, first, second, third grade. I was in a private Christian school, and I was taught sentence diagramming.
Yeah.
And I became cognizant that there was a manipulation about these words. So I did as best I could at the time to study words. I wasn't hip to the prefixes or suffixes. I did know about root words, but I didn't comprehend. I didn't have the dictionary access like I did later on in life, to where I could read like. In fiction, read like Noah Webster's 1828 and read all about the prefixes and suffixes and what makes words and the laws of bracketing and all the things that italicized words are misspelled in contract. And I mean, just all the things. Changing font, sleight of hand. I mean, you just a lot of crazy things that, different dictionaries have out there, but you got to read the fine print.
Are any of those dictionaries available to anybody?
You could go online, and I think you could find that one, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you could. It's 1828, I believe it is, the year on that one.
Right on.
Yeah. But there is a letter in one of the dictionaries that I read, and it said, the bastardization of the English language is one of the biggest crimes on the planet. But I got to eat.
Right.
They were honest.
You talk a little bit about 5G being a war against your mind. It started in the 50s with contact tracing. Talk about the food being poisoned, the manipulations.
Yeah, U.S. Air Force.
Have
Yeah.
you published a list of the people that are orchestrating this stuff?
I have not, and there's good people out here that have done a lot more study on that than I.
Uh-huh.
I just know they need to be held accountable for this, because this is a mass trespass on the free choice and sovereignty of mankind,
Yeah.
and the spirit of who we are as people on the planet. And and the worst thing that I saw, one of the worst things, was in the COVID nonsense, all the 5G towers popped up.
Yep.
And so that somebody was making money, and somebody was not doing their homework on long-term effects.
That's right.
Of what the radiation does to the biochemistry, which affects the psychology of of our fellow man.
I did a show on this. We have a woman in Prescott Valley who has a park across from her house, and they were trying to install a 5G tower in that park. And within like a certain distance, like 300 feet or something small, 300 yards maybe, they have to tell people who are living there, hey, we're going to put this tower in. So she started rallying a bunch of her neighbors to get together and fight against this. And so we talked about this and looked up. They compiled a fat list of all the studies that have been done on this type of tech, not just 5G, because that's fifth generation.
Yes.
But this type of stuff.
Yes.
And they ultimately prevented the tower from being built there.
Good for them.
But one of the amazing things is that this stuff has been going on and studied and used as weapons since the 70s, 80s, even before
40s, 50s. Yeah.
That's
some of the if you look at some of the studies out of Navy labs and some of the things, they're pretty advanced.
But you have these telecom companies that are putting this stuff in to, like I said, kind of about the Starlink, to kind of create this blanketing network, right? But the studies that they do that say, hey, this is okay, it's not harming anybody, they're short term. There's like, oh, let's expose something for 30 minutes to this thing and then examine whether or not it was damaged.
And again, this is where you preset the facts and put their condition of mind on trial. Why are you doing this to our fellow mankind?
Yeah.
Right? Because they're doing it with a volition, because there's a lot of money at stake. And this doesn't need to be done over money. That's what I keep telling people. There's so much wealth on this planet, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to mine the earth. It's
right.
Crazy. It's crazy.
You mentioned scalawave or scale wave technology?
Scalar wave technology.
What is that?
That is technology that programs the subspace between the electron and the proton and the neutron, that can program the cellular reaction in one's body.
Does this have anything to do with the vaccines? Or the vaccines incorporated in that? Do you know?
Don't know.
Okay.
But it has to do mainly with like HARP.
Yeah.
And some of their technologies for ionosphere, and some of the things that they're doing with the aluminum bromide and how they can program that, and then to program us, and then down into our 5G situations.
Right on. Thanks.
Because it's multi-layered.
What are your spiritual beliefs?
Oh, I definitely believe that there's good and evil, and call it the devil and God, and it's up to source, whatever you want to call it. Some source is good, some source is bad, right?
Yeah.
Right. There's a combination, and which source do we allow to come into our consciousness, and which one do we choose to follow? It's a one thing to have beliefs, but it's another thing to perform those beliefs and live by your principles. So I choose. I grew up in a Christian background. And I choose to be more about doing good to our fellow mankind, and eye for an eye sort of thing. But I'm not going to be judgmental of somebody who has a different faith. I will say, when I was at the Vatican, they had a lot of different names for me, and they called me a lot of different things. And they talked about propping up endless wars through religious faiths as a good thing, and I didn't necessarily concur with that. Everybody, it's a fact that you can't throw apples in a fish tank and expect the apples to thrive. So multiculturalism, and some of the things that they're doing to create division is engineered, no doubt. To create division and hardship in communities, to create societal breakdowns, to create, more of the energy of negativity than I see in a positive application. Because this has been done, I'm hoping that people see the value of trying to communicate before they destroy themselves. Because I can write in Farsi Arabic and take it to English and lose no deviation in my sentence structure. Right? I can go in and out of all languages in the world and translate. So it gives a chance that if there is this hatred and division in communities, to now satisfy needs on all sides through a math interface for a language that we can perform and be accountable for our actions and not try to hate or feed off of other people's energy, which I feel there's a big vampire effect going on out here to feed off of people's energy.
So do you have to know that language? I mean, obviously you don't know every language in the world.
No, I don't know every language in the world, but I've dealt with a lot of so because of what I've found myself in, I have found myself next to the families that have approached me that have the oil and gas concessions for the U.S. military, and most of them are Arabic speaking. So I've had to construct contracts in Farsi Arabic and quantum grammar on their claims of life.
How do you do that?
Well, I sit down with the families and I compartmentalize and use the nouns. They go off of their principle of being from Muhammad. And so they have a different birth date system than we do on their lifespan here for former United States.
Did you sit there with a translator?
Well, they can speak English too.
Okay, so you kind of go word
for
word
on
and then
put it in prepositional phrases,
sentence structure, and all that stuff.
And backwards.
So then, are they reading it in their own language?
Yes.
In syntax?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I've done several meetings and several families that way from Turkey, and Afghanistan, mainly Afghanistan. They were wanting to bring me to Afghanistan and gave me all the paperwork for all the geographical value and the rare earths before we vacated Afghanistan. They wanted to bring me into Afghanistan to run and set up. They wanted me to oversee running the world's largest metals refinery and rare earths materials and some different lithium technology, brine technologies that I can do. And so I was brought into meetings by people in the U.S. military and the State Department and DOD to sit down and have conversations with those families back in 2016.
So then two kind of tail questions on that. The spiritual question, do you believe that Jesus Christ is who he says he was?
Well, what I know is that he was trained quite nicely in alchemy from his uncle. Joseph. And so he had a lot of tricks. Is he who he says? I would say that he is someone that has been one of the most influential people in the history of planet Earth. Mm-hmm. And he was definitely here. And he was definitely had God in him for sure, because some of the miracles are unexplainable as far as what he could do. Mm-hmm. But was he trained in certain things under, there are elements that one can put in the body for levitation. There are things that can be done now on the monoatomics to move your paradigm into where you want it to go.
What element?
Several of them.
Come on. Everybody wants to fly.
All right.
Okay,
but then it comes down. Then it comes down to the condition of the heart, the condition of the mind, and him being who he said, and the Son of God, and the things that he had a heart, right? He cared, and that's what I can say. And everybody's on their own journey to find out who Jesus is for them or God is to them. And there's a lot of different names for it and a lot of different texts, right?
Yeah.
But all of them seem to have the same concept, that there was Jesus here, or this man, and he walked around and he performed miracles and people followed him and loved him.
Yeah.
And he didn't stand down to powers to be, and he was humble in his walk and the way he approached things.
Yeah.
But from my perspective, you'd have to be a pretty tough guy to do what he did, and that's a fact. And I'm not trying to say that he was just because he was turning his eye or turning his cheek doesn't mean that he didn't have the courage of his convictions and did what he did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so for that, much love and lots of respect goes out to that, because you have to give honor where honor's due, and but I don't get caught up in theology a whole lot. You're taking me a lot deeper than I really want to go, but the Muslim has his own faith, and so I'm going to be honorable of that. But each faith is all based upon predicated between good and evil, and different perspectives of good and evil. Some cultures and some faiths, think it's good to kill. Think that if you don't believe in their faith, that you kill that other faith. Whereas the teachings of Jesus didn't teach that, right? So people have to really be, critical in their thought process. Do they, are how they choose to follow that?
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks for going deeper with me.
Yeah. People ask those questions of me all the time.
I think one other.
So they call it a lot of things. Source. People have a lot of different names for what Jesus is.
Oh yeah, I've studied far and wide.
Yeah.
Just curious what your perspective is.
Well, my perspective is that there's definitely a journal where there was somebody here by that name, but there's also different names for that too in different cultures.
Yeah.
So I just know that there's good and evil, and there's good and bad in every culture.
Indeed. So what does it mean to you to be free?
Oh, it's a lot of happiness, a lot of space where there's no angst or no will being someone else's will being thwarted upon you, where you get the freedom and the happiness and the love to make your own choices, and those choices have causalities, and those causalities can be good or bad.
Cool.
Right? So and my thing is, I built a system that I don't have to manage, so I don't have to, because people get to be accountable for their own actions. So I don't have to be judgmental towards people. I kind of like that, because I don't walk in their shoes and they don't walk in my shoes.
Right on.
So I don't want to judge them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned the definition before, but what does the word quantum mean?
So quantum is breaking things down from a pluralism of quanta into its least common denominator, and putting a finite closure that people can comprehend and come into joinder with.
Okay. There's kind of a comparison today that we could probably give some credence to, of being caught in the Tower of Babel.
Oh yeah.
That idea.
Yes, we are definitely, babbling and can have confused languages everywhere. And the quantum system gives people a chance to translate in their languages and bring it back to another language and still mean the same thing.
Yeah.
And please keep in mind, Andy, that all words aren't the same in other languages. So we correlate the synonym to that word to best give it the same volition to have the same outcome for comprehension in a sentence.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I like to think of definitions because they're subjective, right? So I like to illustrate the subjectivity of a word's meaning like this. If you're walking on a path, you've got the edges of the path, and you get the middle of the path. The given definition is the middle of the path. But you're walking on this path of interpreting a word, you can go over to the right side.
Oh yeah.
You can go over to the other edge, and every single person is walking on their own path.
Different angle, different perspective.
Yeah, based on where they came from and how they learned.
Sure.
So it's very subjective. So somebody goes through this claim of life, they're awarded it.
They just join with us, not like you're getting an award. You're just giving it.
I guess receive.
Yeah.
They receive this thing.
Yes.
How does that change their normal life?
It doesn't. They're just setting up a dual citizenship for themselves. Everybody has the right to do that. They're still going to maintain, except they're going to start setting up performances for their outside usuries, like at banks, school boards, children. We've used this for children going through public schools without social security numbers. I mean, it's a number of things that come into place.
So how is it a dual citizenship if being sovereign means you're not a citizen?
Well, because that's where you come into play, saying that you're now taking jurisdiction over that which you are now leaving behind, and salvaging over comes under salvage. And you're salvaging your knowledge and your equities from the past and bringing them into the now to make sure that you can control your world.
So this won't absolve anybody's current debt in the current system,
No,
or anything like that.
No.
Okay.
No, this is about accountability. Now, if you have debt, get rid of it as fast as you can in these
Yeah.
times. I mean, it's not a time to be holding on to debt.
Yeah, because as we said before, you as a vessel
Yeah.
can be used as collateral against that debt.
Oh, yeah. I think it was Bush that reauthorized debtor's prison back in 2001 or 2002. I can't remember when that all happened, but they were reauthorizing debtor's prison for sure
Okay.
in their fiction, if there is such a thing.
Okay, I have a listener question. I've got only one listener question, and it's
All right. I love the audience. All right.
yeah. So they are coming from the standpoint of you being a Christian. So we kind of went into that a little bit already. But their
Yes.
question is, this is Tim from Colorado. What is the difference between sovereignty offered through the claim of the life treaty compared to the freedom and sovereignty in Christ?
It'll give you a different perspective on the words that you're being articulated to in your Bible. You'll find yourself more wanting to be in the now space and seeing the value of that, and it just gives you a different perspective.
Have you rewritten any of the founding fathers' writings in syntax?
I have, yes, the Bill of the Rights. Back in 1999, we wrote that in quantum grammar. That was the first thing. We started on the Constitution, and then I realized, or became cognizant that that's something that has to come from the people,
Like individually?
like collectively.
Okay.
Right. So I didn't feel that was my job to do, because I knew that the time was going to change. So we have constitutional articles under a Bill of the Rights in our contracts. However, the concept for a constitution, that needs to not come from representatives, but needs to come from the people.
Awesome.
And so I didn't want to trespass on that position, because I mean, it's already enough to grab the flag and do all kinds of things. And I mean, but I felt the people in their own communities and their quantum structure should set up the terms for their living situation. Now, I am a function of shipping, recording, journal, that sort of thing, and judging myself. But if I have, and I had to judge others that were creating nefarious acts, because nobody would stand up against them. And that's a problem, is people don't stand up against. And when they do, they're grabbing their fiction grammar and running into their fiction courts and thinking that they're going to get somewhere, and they get nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's more of the same. Oh, you're not showing any facts. Well, they're not telling them why they're not showing any facts, right? Because the judicial system's been taken out.
Yeah. Right on.
So, but yeah, to answer your question, the Constitution should come from the people.
And the Bill of Rights that you rewrote, is that somewhere?
Similar, it's the exact same what you see out there, but giving the armament, freedom of the speech, all everything, faith, all the fundamentals.
Yeah.
But it's the people's job.
For the Constitution.
Yeah, that's not my job that's the people. That's got to come from the people's heart, not from. I'll show them the administrative and the maritime and the admiralty construct, but that's their terms for their communities, for their lifestyles, not mine.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, where can somebody acquire a Bill of Rights that's written in syntax?
Well, we'll have one attached for you. We've probably got one here somewhere.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Is it on your website as well?
It's not,
Okay.
but it's something we probably should make available for the general public. We just have chosen not to.
Mm-hmm.
We're starting to get a lot more people come aboard. People are finding out that people have been trying to undermine me all over the world. That's been a problem with credibility.
So they create like fake versions?
Fake versions of me. They got someone down in Australia that makes giving people claims of life out with their pen names. And so now they're trying to discredit, creating people out of thin air.
Well, you couldn't combine that with the current alleged legal system, so it doesn't work.
Well, they're getting harvested and thrown in jail all over. They're pointing fingers at everybody but themselves.
this you might be able to answer this because you just talked about the Bill of Rights. So one of the frequently asked questions on your website, I'm going to read it and then I got a question about it. It says, I'm a felon. It's been years since this charge. How does it affect my claim? And am I able to get my right to bear arms back strictly for hunting and protection for my family? The answer is you may proceed with your claim of the life. For now, you'd have to go back into the courts and get your right to bear arms expunged.
What we do is once you start stepping into the quantum grammar, now you can start moving into claiming your rights. And we have found, or I've seen with other people in that same circumstance, that they have been left alone.
So could they get their Second Amendment right back under the false system?
The system will just act like they don't exist because they're not there. So you got to keep that in mind. The system doesn't exist, so they're not going to bother them because they've claimed their rights of sovereignty and moved outside the paradigm of them because they can't state a claim. Their ability to state a claim against them is now gone. They go bye-bye.
Yeah,
The courts.
The courts don't have the ability to stake a claim against them because they have claimed their sovereignty back.
Correct, and
which voids
whatever was done because it's no longer there because you can syntax it, prove it to be 100% fraud, and tell them to stop and correct, and they can't stop and correct because they're not going to correct the whole system for one person.
Even though that felony charge in their system will still be visible,
it may or may not. Each circumstance is a little bit different.
Okay.
Yeah, each circumstance. And you might have to go through the fumbling, bumbling idiots and deal with all them too simultaneously and all the nonsense with their nonsense. But see, I am of a different thinking, and I believe my freedoms weren't won with a registered gun. So I have a whole different thought process there going on.
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit more aligned with that as well.
Yeah.
That is all the questions I have written down.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I got one more that has to do with the creating value and the alchemical, whatever's going on there.
Yes.
Can you explain a little bit about what you're doing with that and how other people could be a part of that?
Yeah. So what we're doing right now is we're putting that in position to backstop people's shipping war that they're in. So we're putting that value behind stamps, and we are. When is this going to be published?
Probably next week.
We're
you can say it, and I can pull it out if it needs to
yeah.
be pulled out.
Yeah, what we're doing.
Don't say anything you don't want now.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to say.
Yeah, just we're coining coins right now for the general public to put behind in their portfolios for their businesses. We're hopefully getting into more of a manufacturing position here. I don't have a manufacturing plant set up yet, but those are things that are hopefully coming in the very near future. And so I'm working on that.
So the coining coins would be legitimately backed valuables.
Yeah, well,
for someone's wealth.
Yeah, it's gold. So what we're doing is we're taking their gold and silver and burning it, and then I put it into this turn it into a hermaphrodite. Hermaphrodites are electron donors and givers simultaneously, and then I'm spinning it and changing the metal signature on it and bringing it back through electrolysis to make larger mass.
Can somebody use what you just said and figure out how to do it on their own, or probably not? I assume you said it.
They got to learn how to look, and they got to learn where to look, and it's a lot. It's a lot. It took me a lot to figure out.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's cool stuff though. It's really cool actually.
That's awesome.
Metallurgy, yeah, I love it because, I always told myself you could throw paper at someone, it doesn't hurt, but if you tag somebody with a metal bar, you leave a mark.
Yeah.
That's the one I'm after.
Right on.
Same people have tried with.
Cool.
Yeah, I've been given it's a huge gift that I could give to the world. I don't know if they're ready for it, but it's a huge gift.
So is it your hope that eventually this form of value will be what's used in the world?
Well, it will be because I disqualified all the banking authorizations worldwide.
Do you have a projected timeline on that?
As soon as the people get educated enough to use it.
That's what I thought. So then
it's
if
educational.
So without the entire population being educated on that.
It could be used corporate to corporate, business to business, person to person if they so choose.
Person to
right
person.
Right now.
But they have to have gone through the claim of the life in order to use that. So they have to have that dual citizenship.
They have to.
in order
yeah,
to use that.
Otherwise, yeah, because otherwise the fiction is going to grab it and saying you're not claiming your facts.
Right
Who
on.
are you? You're a fiction.
Yeah.
You can't be in two places at the same time.
Well, is there anything else that you want to share before we wrap this up?
I don't know. You covered a whole heck of a lot today.
Yeah, I did.
I mean, it's a lot, and it's probably a lot for people to process.
Yeah.
And I hope your audience does some searching out
Yeah.
and looks into what's been said and really considers the energy that they choose to feed in their hearts and minds.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much, sir.
You bet. Thank you. Blessings, Andy.